They've died back from our frost. Now, fortunately for us here in Zone 5A in Milwaukee area in southeast Wisconsin, we've actually had 24 days longer of growth in 2016 than we did in 2015. In 2015, the frost came and killed our yacons on October the 17th. This year, it's happened on November the 12th. So we're going to dig these up, and we know how to grow these. If you want more information on more details on how to grow yacons, you can go to our website, thewisconsinvegetablegarden.com, and there's a yacon tab, some videos, and some information there on how to grow them. It can be grown in Zone 5A, and I've seen them grown in Zone 4, and some individuals have been successful at growing them in Canada. It is a South American root crop, and this is what the plant looks like. Now, the reason that you'll see yacon plants with flowers on them. Now, yacons need 6 months of outdoor weather, frost-free weather, to develop flowers. We just came about 3 weeks short of that. These typically will go in about the same time as your tomatoes will, and they will get between 4 and 5, even 6, or some 7 foot, or some 6.5, 7 foot ones up there. So what we're going to do here, and you save them by the rhizomes, and we'll go over that. So we're going to dig up this one here. We're going to start with this one. We're going to have a lot of tubers here, and you want to be careful because you don't want to snap these tubers off. So you see the top growth here. It's dead, so there's not going to be any opportunity, even though we have about 14 more days of frost-free weather, there's not going to be any opportunity for the plant to develop flowers, simply because the top has died off. Now, you want to start these about 2 to 3 months before you're intending on putting them in the ground. So it's a very long process of about 280-ish days from time you start the rhizome to the time you harvest the plant. There's a number of dishes you can make with this. So we're just going to, well, one thing you want to keep in mind when you're dealing with these yacons, you want to give a nice area here where you can grab and pull, because sometimes it's a two-person process. And so you want a good growth. You can see the stalks are good compost material, and there's hollow in the center. And that's good compost material. So we'll get these cut back. And you even got zinnias still growing because of the cover of the yacons. So we'll get the fork, we'll get the shovel, and I'm going to dig up this zinnia simply because it's going to be in the way. But all right, so I'm not really sure what I've got here, so I'm being very gentle with digging it up, because you see right here, that is what I'm looking for. That is one of the rhizomes, and it's broke off, which that's fine. But that is one of the tubers there. So I'm going to put that there, and hopefully there's many, many more of those in here. And I just got to figure out how to get it loosened up. And I'm sure they go deep in the ground here, because we had good work this soil really well. Okay, maybe, let's see if I can. Woo! Look at that. I hope we snapped that one off. Okay, so they go down pretty deep, and that one snapped off. So I'll have to dig and find the remaining ones of those. So it's going to be a little bit of time here for us to get all these dug up, but that is what we were hoping for. Just in this tuber alone is more than what we had last year in the 2 plants, because we didn't know how to grow these. We'd done some research. Basically, it was a trial and error. And again, these are like potatoes, so you kind of want to be as careful as you can so you don't tear the skin off of it. But that is an incredible site here. And here's the rhizomes right here. That's these purple things. And what we'll do is we'll just clean this up real nice, get the roots off it, and those will get buried in sand and put in the bottom of the refrigerator. But I'm going to work on getting the rest of that root out, and we've got a job ahead of us here to get these yacons dug up, and we'll see what we actually have. All right, so we've got 4 plants, something like that, dug up. Find a lot of big roots here. And we've kind of noticed that just in the digging of them, that some of these roots do kind of crack. And one way to preserve them is you can put a wax on them. That's one way of prolonging them. If you have a root cellar, you can put them in that. They will last a little while. I mean, obviously that's them, but we've got cracks on some of these. You can see just the stress, I guess, of bringing them out of the ground has caused them to get some crack fractures. But anyway, big roots on these. Last year, with the 2 plants that we had, this was literally how much yacon we got last year with 2 plants. But since we understood how to grow them, the soil preparation, and these yacons build really good microbial life in the soil too. Now, one thing, I trimmed this one back, and what we're wanting to save is, again, these purple nodulars. These are what is called rhizomes. These are very similar to the procedure that you would do with potatoes, which means this here is 1 seed. I got 1, 2, 3 different growth tips. I can actually cut that in half at the time of harvest, or at the time of planting in 3 months before I'm going to put them in the ground, and I can divide that and get that to root. So actually I've divided that. You don't want to get it so small where there's no meat. Now we've played around with it and made them very small, and they have taken root. But that's where that is. Those you don't want to eat because that's valuable. If you get yacons, you buy once, never have to buy again if you save them, as we have here. So we've got a lot of yacons already. We still got a number of plants here to dig up, but I'm very pleased with what we're getting. Again, we do have some stress fractures here, which is fine. We'll deal with that. So we'll figure out we'll dig up the rest of them and see where we're at. So as darkness has fallen on the garden, we have completed our yacon harvest for the year. We got, right now, these 2 trays here is a total of 80.6 pounds. And they're still, these are the rhizomes here, and I've still got to go through, and I'll do this in the house in good light. And that there, that's a root that's edible, that there's a root that's edible, and then I'll clean all that out. And then the rhizomes here will make this as small as possible and put in a bucket of sand and keep in the fridge. Or we might even experiment with keeping it in the attic steps, which is very cold during the winter. Now, we did have a handful of casualties, which is normal unless you go in there and physically remove the dirt around them. Timely takes a lot of time on that. We've punctured some of them with a fork, so I'll clean these up. And there's a lot of things that we can do with them. Mainly we can prep these and freeze them. We can put them in soups. We can make stews out of them. You could excavate it, as I talked about earlier, with a backhoe, and that would prevent a lot of this, where you could just lift it up, but we don't all have backhoes. Also, if you're in a raised bed, it would work better because that soil is more loose. This is garden soil. It was very it was tilled, it was loosened with the garden fork. I went in there and spent a good afternoon making sure that was good and loose, and a lot of them grew downwards. This one here, you can see where you hit it with a fork, it just really erupts with a lot of liquid. But many of them, what we found was wherever the centralized stalk was, there wasn't a whole lot of outward growth. It was mainly vertical or down. You may have had a few of them, like if this was a stalk, you may have had maybe 1 or 2 like that, but most of them were in the downward position. And the smaller ones, like this here, we did come up with smaller ones here, but these will all be examined, looked at, and will have minimal amount of waste and loss on this. So we had 14 plants there, gave us 80.6 pounds. I don't know what that figures out average-wise. We still have 2 at the front yard garden, which we'll see what that gets. And then sister-in-law still has several of them. So we're going to have a lot of rhizomes that we're going to save. And these are very nice ones here. But with the yacon harvest, we ended up getting, as I talked about earlier, 24 more days to grow them than we did last year. That definitely had a contributing factor to the amount of tubers, but we had irrigation on them. We had good loose soil. We gave them the required amount of nutrients that we have found. So we're very happy with this, and there's a lot of things that we'll be doing with the yacons.